The radical uprising, how Black women valuing each other shatters everything we thought we knew. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I want to begin by acknowledging the extraordinary woman whose work has fundamentally altered my understanding of community power. Yvonne Riley isn't just a researcher or activist, she's a visionary whose groundbreaking work is literally rewriting the future of Black women's collective empowerment. When I first encountered Yvonne's research, I was struck not just by its intellectual rigor, but by its revolutionary potential. Her insights aren't merely theoretical abstractions. They are transformative tools that challenge centuries of divisive narratives and illuminate pathways toward a radically different future. Yvonne has dedicated her life to understanding how Black women can rise together. And in doing so, she's creating ripples that will be felt for generations to come. We've all heard the conventional wisdom, haven't we? Competition drives excellence. To succeed, especially as women, we must outshine, outperform, and ultimately outlast our peers. This narrative is so deeply embedded in our cultural consciousness that we rarely question it. It feels like gravity, an immutable force we must simply accept. But what if this fundamental assumption is not just flawed, but actively harmful? What if the path to true empowerment runs directly counter to everything we've been taught about success? This is the counterintuitive truth at the heart of what I learned from Yvonne Riley. The most powerful force for individual advancement isn't competition, it's collaboration. The most effective strategy for personal growth isn't isolation, it's community. And the surest route to self value is, in comparison, it's collective affirmation. Let's begin with a fundamental insight that emerged from our conversation. Self value is foundational. Many Black women struggle with valuing themselves and, by extension, each other. This isn't accidental or inherent, it's the product of historical forces and persistent narratives that have systematically undermined Black women's sense of worth. Think about the normalized behaviors we see in our communities. Women accepting side chick roles, internalizing harmful stereotypes, or viewing other successful Black women as threats rather than allies. These patterns don't emerge from nowhere. They're symptoms of a deeper issue, a collective wound in our understanding of our own value. The pain of this wound is real. I've seen it in boardrooms where accomplished Black women eye each other with suspicion rather than solidarity. I've witnessed it in social settings where the arrival of another beautiful Black woman is met with tension rather than celebration. I felt it in my own heart when my first instinct upon meeting a brilliant sister was to compare rather than connect. This brings us to the second critical insight from Yvonne's work. Stereotypes profoundly impact self perception. Historical and media driven tropes, particularly the Jezebel stereotype that hypersexualizes Black women, have contributed to cycles of diminished self worth. These stereotypes don't just shape how others see us, they infiltrate how we see ourselves and each other. When we internalize these narratives, we begin to view other Black women through their distorted lens. Competition replaces solidarity, suspicion replaces trust, and the potential power of our collective strength remains tragically unrealized. But here's where Yvonne's third insight offers a revolutionary path forward. Empowerment is a collective journey. When Black women uplift one another professionally and personally, we don't just counter negative norms, we fuel broader economic growth, resilience, and cultural influence within our communities. This isn't just inspirational rhetoric. It's supported by compelling evidence from organizations that have put these principles into practice. Consider the Sadi Collective, founded by Anna Gifty Opoku Agiama, to address the isolation of Black women in economics. The challenges were formidable: severe underrepresentation, lack of mentorship, and subtle but persistent discouragement from pursuing leadership roles. These are challenges that many Black women face across industries. The sense of being perpetually alone without models or mentors who share their lived experience. Anna's story is particularly powerful. As a young economist navigating predominantly white academic spaces, she experienced firsthand the crushing weight of isolation. In classrooms where she was often the only Black woman, she found herself constantly questioning her belonging, her abilities, her very right to be there. This wasn't just uncomfortable, it was debilitating. But Anna's response wasn't to simply develop thicker skin or work twice as hard to prove herself. Instead, she recognized that her experience reflected a systemic issue that required a collective solution. The Sadie Collective created annual conferences focused on networking, professional development workshops, and mentorship programs that paired early career professionals with established economists. The results have been nothing short of transformative. The organization has dramatically increased visibility for Black women economists, demonstrated measurable growth in conference attendance, and formed partnerships with major institutions like the Federal Reserve. They've hosted multiple national conferences, placed members into prestigious internships, and influenced hiring practices at partner organizations. But perhaps most significantly, they've helped reshape narratives about who belongs in economics while encouraging mutual support over rivalry. This is a profound shift from a mindset of scarcity, where each Black woman who succeeds seems to threaten the prospects of others, to a mindset of abundance, where each success strengthens the entire community. We see similar principles at work in Blavity Inc., co-founded by Morgan DeBon, to create digital platforms centering young Black voices across media sectors. The challenge they addressed was persistent: a lack of representation for millennial and Gen Z Black creatives that led to feelings of invisibility or undervaluation within mainstream industries. Morgan's personal frustration with being the only one in professional spaces inspired her to create networks where authenticity and mutual support are core values instead of exceptions. Blavity built online communities through Blavity News, hosted summits like Afrotech, and provided funding opportunities specifically targeting underrepresented founders. The impact has been extraordinary. Blavity now reaches millions monthly across its platforms and has facilitated a significant increase in venture backed startups led by young Black professionals connected through their events. They've raised over $11 million in venture capital and launched several spin-off brands supporting diverse interests, including 2190, which focuses on wellness and lifestyle. Most importantly, they have fostered a culture where collaboration replaces competition among ambitious young Black entrepreneurs. This represents a fundamental reorientation of values, from seeing other Black women as competitors for limited opportunities to recognizing them as essential allies in expanding possibilities for everyone. Perhaps the most direct embodiment of these principles can be found in the annual Black Girl Magic Conference, which brings together thousands of professional Black women nationwide. The conference tackles issues like colorism and self worth head on through workshops and panels rooted in healing and community care practices. Many attendees arrive carrying the weight of isolation at work and home due to tokenism or stereotype threat, feeling unsupported and unseen even as they achieve success. The conference responds with intentionally curated programming that focuses on affirming identity and self love alongside skill building and professional networking opportunities. The outcomes are remarkable. Rising rates of attendee promotions and job placements post conference, as reported via follow up surveys, and peer mentoring circles that form organically and continue year round, both online and offline. The event has sustained year over year growth despite pandemic disruptions by adapting to virtual models that reach wider audiences globally. What began as grassroots meetups responding directly to participants' expressed needs for validation and belonging has catalyzed broader conversations about valuing oneself and each other in both public and private spheres across industries and media. These examples reveal a powerful truth. When Black women choose to value themselves and each other, they don't just heal individual wounds, they transform entire systems. They don't just advance personal careers, they reshape industries. They don't just build networks, they create movements. This brings us to a profound question that emerged from my conversation with Yvonne Riley. What would it look like if every time you felt tempted to compare yourself or diminish another woman, you chose instead to actively affirm her worth? How might this shift transform not just your relationships, but our entire community? Imagine the possibilities. Imagine what could happen if every Black woman who achieved success reached back to pull others forward. Imagine the power that could be unleashed if we redirected the energy we spend competing with each other toward challenging the systems that limit all of us. Imagine the healing that could occur if we viewed other Black women's success not as a threat, but as proof of what's possible for ourselves. This vision requires us to challenge deeply ingrained assumptions about success and value. It demands that we recognize how historical forces have shaped our relationships with ourselves and each other. And it calls us to make a radical choice to value ourselves and each other in a world that often fails to do so. The conventional wisdom tells us that we rise by outperforming others. The transformative truth is that we rise by lifting each other. This isn't just idealism. The organizations we've examined demonstrate that this approach works. When Black women come together in mutual support and affirmation, they don't just survive in challenging environments, they thrive and transform those environments for everyone who follows. So today, I'm not just asking you to consider these ideas intellectually, I'm challenging you to embody them radically, starting right now. I want you to make a commitment, not just to yourself, but to every Black woman in your sphere of influence. The next time you feel that twinge of comparison, that whisper of insecurity, when another sister shines, pause. Recognize it as the echo of systems designed to divide us. And then deliberately choose a different response. Send that congratulatory text. Share her accomplishment on your platform. Mentor that younger woman who reminds you of yourself. Defend that colleague when she's interrupted in meetings. These aren't small acts, they're revolutionary ones. Each time you choose solidarity over competition, you're not just helping one woman, you're dismantling centuries of conditioning designed to keep us separate and diminished. This is how revolutions begin, not with grand manifestos, but with daily choices to see and value each other differently, not with weapons, but with words of affirmation that cut through internalized doubt, not with violence, but with the gentle, persistent power of women who refuse to be pitted against each other any longer. The world has spent centuries telling Black women who they are. Today, we begin the work of telling ourselves and each other who we truly are: valuable, worthy, powerful, and absolutely unstoppable when we stand together. The revolution of reciprocal value isn't coming, it's already here, and it begins with you. Thank you